Hi, and welcome back to another video. And today I will once again be touching on Canadian politics as we have some more developments here within not just the Liberal leadership race, but the federal election that will be coming up sometime this year. That will be very exciting to watch. But we do have the next Liberal leader of Canada and the next Prime Minister of Canada, most likely going to be Mark Carney. As being leader, he is currently surging for the Liberals, if elected as Liberal leader, which most likely is. He's been surging in all the Liberal leadership election polls. There's going to be debates coming up. He's probably going to do well, and he's expected to succeed Justin Trudeau as the next Prime Minister of Canada. And with that, helping the Liberals come back to being what, they were assumed to be, a dead party, and they were facing complete annihilation as the governing party. It was an incumbent problem, but now it no longer is for several reasons, including, the new leader, previously being Justin Trudeau. Well, he is still a Liberal leader as of right now and Prime Minister until, there is a new one elected, and that comes into office in early of March. But the Liberal Party was facing complete annihilation as Justin Trudeau was leader, and it wasn't the only problem. There were several things Justin Trudeau was doing Canadians just didn't like, and they were sick of him. They just wanted him gone. You could see it in the decline where the Liberals were leading the Conservatives, which, obviously soon evaporated, and they went from the 30s to the 20s and eventually down to 16. And Justin Trudeau resigning on January 6th of 2025 surely helped that, solve things. As you can see here, as Justin Trudeau was Prime Minister here, the lowest the Liberals ever got, 16% in December of 2024. However, the first poll that comes after the resignation of Justin Trudeau and after Donald Trump is president, and he's talking about tariffing Canada, he's talking about annexing them, he's talking about making the 51st state of the United States of America. After all of that, look where the Liberals are after that. After all of that, after Donald Trump's inaugurated, after Justin Trudeau announces his resignation as Liberal leader and Prime Minister, after all of that, the Liberals surge up to 29%. That is a 13% shift in the Liberals' favor. As for the Conservatives, they only dropped by 2 points, right? Not too bad for the Conservatives. 2 points isn't that bad. They certainly have that. Look, you can see where they went down from 37 to 35. Where they also went down to 41 to 40. So that wasn't really something to be concerned about. What is interesting, though, is in the same, jump, we see the NDP that was leading the Liberals go from 21 to 13%. And then we get our most recent update where the Liberals once again go up from 29 to 37 on 8-point jump. And the Conservatives drop from 43 to 40. Once again, I'd argue not a concerning, not really much of a concerning drop. I mean, it is a drop, but it is 2 drops in a row. And, if I was Conservatives, I would be giving off alarm bells, but not as big if I was the NDP, who dropped again by 3 points. Sure, it's the same amount as the Conservatives had, but still, they are now at lower points than the Liberals were at their worst points right before the resignation of Justin Trudeau, where the Liberals were at 16, and now the NDP, as of the most recent data we have here on this poll, if Mark Carney was the Liberal leader, they are now 6 points below the Liberals that were at their worst point. So if I was the NDP, I would be giving off way bigger alarm bells than the Conservatives have. I do believe that the Conservatives still the favorites at this time, but that is quickly evaporating right now. As you can see now, the Liberals are only 3 points away from the Conservatives, and we have already seen polling, that is incredibly close, right? We have this polling, Liberals are 31-38, or Liberals being 36-39. And previously, before the resignation of Justin Trudeau, we had polls like this, where Liberals are only at 21, Conservatives at 47, Liberals are at 22, Conservatives are at 45, but the Conservatives had this 20%. We could go all the way back here, where in some by-elections, took place, where, they go in the Conservative favor, 27-41, 23-42, 26-41. You guys get the point. I made this point before in my previous videos. But yeah, as of the recent poll that came out on February 7th, 2025, which was about 4 days ago, the Liberals at 33, Conservatives at 41, right? Conservatives still have this big lead over the Liberals, but it wasn't as big as previously. And we can already see in this national federal polling, the Conservatives are dropping and the Liberals are surging. And the Conservatives aren't only just dropping, but so is the NDP. The NDP is collapsing way faster than the Conservatives, which is why I still argue that the Conservatives probably still the favorites at this time, definitely still are, but not as much as they were when they were at 45% and the Liberals were only at 16, the NDP at 21. So the collapsing of both the Conservatives and the NDP really shows that good signs are showing for the Liberals if Mark Carney is elected leader. And trust me, Mark Carney most likely is going to be elected leader. Now, you're probably saying, this is just one poll. The Conservatives NDP really, probably aren't really afraid of Mark Carney. Well, if they weren't, why is the leader of the NDP calling out Mark Carney, attacking him, saying as Mark Carney is rising in the polls? Mark Carney's rising in the polls drives attack from the NDP, Jagmeet Singh. So their leader is already going after the soon-to-be elected next Liberal leader succeeding Justin Trudeau. The NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is ramping up his attacks on Liberal leadership candidate Mark Carney, painting him as a corporate-friendly politician who will slash public services just like Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. So I think if you're looking at this, if the NDP wasn't afraid of Carney, if they weren't worried at all, despite their collapsing in the polls, despite their very unpopular leader, almost as unpopular as Trudeau is right now, why would they be making these attacks? And why would it not be on Pierre Poilievre or making fun of Trudeau as he is in his last days in office here? Why wouldn't they be doing any of that? The answer is because the NDP is scared, or they are concerned, they are worried, and that I do believe that alarm bells are going off much more for the NDP as for the Conservatives. The Conservatives are sitting in a much more comfortable spot as the NDP is here, and I think the NDP has very good reasons to be afraid right now, as they are, just like the Liberals were, are now facing complete annihilation, as they are now lower than the Liberals were when the Liberals were at their worst spot, 16%. The NDP now sits at 10%. And just a couple months ago, they were at their highest at 21%. It was the highest they've been in since the Liberals were actually leading, right? And now that lead has completely collapsed. As the Liberals are surging, the Conservatives are taking this small little dip, but not really concerning. And they are now down to the rest of the other parties that, really aren't really looked upon. And the NDP had this chance where it could be like 2011, where they were going to, take over the Liberals, maybe try and go after the Conservatives. But at this point, right, the Conservatives, despite the NDP being in second place at this point, the Conservatives still had this 24-point lead on the NDP and this almost 30-point lead on the Liberals. However, that has now changed, where the Conservatives now have a 30-point lead on the NDP and only a 3-point lead on the Liberals. Where the Conservatives' lead not only has fallen, but so has the NDP, and the Liberals have surged to over 20 points. Now, if you go from December to January, the interesting thing you could mention about January is January was when Trump was talking about the tariffs, Trudeau announced his resignation, and Canadians were starting to get annoyed at their southern neighbors. So the rise of the Liberals, I think, as Mark Carney's Liberal leader, not only is because that the Liberal Party is getting a new leader, but it is because of so many other things that I just mentioned that is upsetting Canadians, and they are looking, as of right now, for an opposition party to Donald Trump, and they are excited about Mark Carney, who might be the next Prime Minister of Canada. And the NDP already taking shots at Mark Carney just shows how worried they are at this slip in the polls and the fact that they are dropping faster than the Conservatives are. The Conservatives, who are right now the opposition, the NDP previously being in a coalition with the Liberals under the Trudeau government, which they ripped up. Jagmeet Singh announced that he was going to rip it up. He believed that the Liberals were incompetent and they weren't helping Canadians. Now Liberals that they view incompetent are now surging, and the NDP is falling and collapsing. So yes, I do believe, as of right now, Conservatives obviously still the favorites, but not as much before. And the NDP, who seemed to that could have done better at a time in a federal election. No longer the case, as they are now sitting 27 points below the Liberals, despite being 5 points ahead back in December of 2024. And as of February 2025, they are now 27 points below the Liberals and 30 points behind the Conservatives, and just 3 points ahead of the other parties here. So yes, that is concerning. I think the Conservatives obviously should still be concerned here that they have dipped about 5 points, but the NDP dipping about 11 points here, much more concerning. And it'll be interesting to see how all this develops, and I just can't wait. And we still have a lot more time to go until Mark Carney is elected Liberal leader, Prime Minister, till we get Prime Minister questions, and so much more polling to look at, and so much more data to look at. It'll be very interesting to see. And I just can't wait until we get to see it. But anyways, that is the video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye.